Good evening and welcome. My name is Erica Crouch, District 7 Outreach Coordinator for Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski Jr.'s Office of Community Engagement. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you here for our 5th Budget Town Hall Series. As the County Executive has stated, government works best when our residents drive the conversation. And our signature Town Hall series continues on those efforts to create a more open, accessible, and responsive government. We continue to build a better Baltimore County together by encouraging you, all residents, to participate in our county's budget process. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Bob Smith, Acting Director for Baltimore County's Department of Recreation and Parks.
Good evening. My name is Bob Smith. I am the Acting Director for the Department of Recreation and Parks. We'd first like to thank County Executive Olszewski and Councilman Crandell for joining us tonight at the Solars Point Community Center. And of course, we'd like to thank everyone for coming out to participate in this year's. As mentioned, our system of government works best when we hear from the residents. And these town halls represent the purest form of community input and provide residents the opportunity to hear from you. They provide residents the opportunity to give that input. This evening is a little special for me. 25 years ago, my first professional job in the agency was here in Turner Station. Specifically, the old Fleming Center down the street. So you could say that through work, effort, and to be honest, some luck, I have progressed from entry level to the acting director. Or you could say in 25 years, I've moved about a mile. This is a special community full of rich history, filled with well-deserved pride, and home to some amazing residents, both past and present, some of whom I've seen here again tonight. It's a privilege to host this meeting at this facility in this exceptional community, and an honor to welcome the county executive and the councilman and you all here this evening.
Thank you, Bob. Tonight, we continue with fiscal year 2024's budget discussions here in District 7, hosted by your County Executive, Johnny Olszewski Jr., and your council member, Todd Crandell. After the County Executive's budget presentation, our residents will have an opportunity to share their budget-related priority within the allotted time of 2 minutes at one of the designated microphones located here in front of the auditorium. The county executive, the appropriate department head, or Councilman Crandell will address your inquiries, concerns, and ideas. If we cannot answer a question tonight, we will have a coordinator from the Office of Community Engagement follow up with you. Now, without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to welcome your Councilman, Todd Crandell.
Good? All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Come on. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I just want to begin by thanking you all for being here. We have a packed house tonight, which I think is a beautiful thing to happen in any community, especially ours. I want to thank the county executive for continuing this, what has become a tradition of putting together these town meetings where we get to hear your voices at the microphones, and then you all have direct access to the department heads that are making decisions and that can help us solve some of the problems and some of the challenges that we face in Baltimore County. Besides thanking you all for being here tonight, we just came off an election year, and I want thank the voters of the 7th District for entrusting me again with another 4 years. My staff and I, and a member of my staff is here tonight, we are so proud of the work that we've been able to do with a lot of your involvement over the last 8 years. But we also have challenges that still persist. And because of some of the progress that we've made, we know that progress begets other problems that need to be addressed. And I have to say that I am thankful that despite some disagreements that the county executive and I may have at some times, that we are able to work together and that he makes his staff, his agencies, accessible to me, accessible to you, which is why we're all here tonight. And I mention that every town hall meeting, that, yeah, the county executive and I, we disagree on certain things. But we would be doing a disservice to you and every other taxpayer in Baltimore County if we didn't work together, which we do. So I wanted to go into a little bit about the budget process. A lot of you are familiar with it, just in case you're not. The county executive formulates his budget, and he's in the process now of formulating his budget, which is one of the reasons he's here tonight, to hear about what your priorities might be. He also sits down with each council member, including myself, and talks with me and the other members of the council about what their priorities might be. And that goes into the formulation of a budget that gets presented before the council. And then the Baltimore County Council can cut from that budget, but we cannot add to it, and we can't move money around within the budget. And it's important, I think, to understand that as we're trying to advocate for our priorities in the 7th District to go into the county executive's budget, because we have to understand that there are six other districts in Baltimore County, and we're all fighting for a piece of a finite pie. So we have to understand that as well. And the county executive has a job, a pretty serious job of trying to balance those priorities across Baltimore County. I'm going to bring up one example about how the county executive and I have worked together. And it's just one little example, but it's something that has touched all of us and has been a hot button issue for a couple of years now. And that is the wastewater treatment plant at Back River. So several years ago, the Baltimore County Council passed a resolution to ask the General Assembly to create what is called a regional water authority, which would take the overall authority of facilities like the Back River wastewater treatment plant out of the hands of Baltimore City and place it into an entity that would provide greater accountability and oversight into a plant like that we all know that has failed us. And we met with a lot of opposition. The city was not, let's say, open to the idea. And I've had numerous conversations with the county executive. Johnny, this is what we need to do. We need a regional water authority. We need to look into this. And just recently, the county executive and the mayor of Baltimore City made an announcement that they are seeking legislation to form a task force to look into that particular possibility of creating a regional water authority for Baltimore County and the surrounding areas so we can get greater accountability, get greater oversight, not only of the Back River wastewater treatment plant, but our overall water and sewer infrastructure. And that's how the county executive and I work together. I advocate, we talk about it, and then if he decides, he takes action on it. So we're different parties, we're different people, but we care deeply about the jobs that we do. And with those remarks, I'm going to introduce to you our county executive, Johnny Olszewski, Jr. who also happens to be my constituent.
I mean, Bob got a go point. Okay, thank you, Keith. Jeez. Good evening, everyone. It is wonderful to see this room filled. I want to thank Councilman Crandell for his steadfast partnership. As he said, even when we disagree, we're never disagreeable. And I want you to know that he is persistent and consistent in working alongside us and advocating for your communities. And so it's been a really good working relationship. And I think that we need to see more of that, frankly, in our politics today, at a time when things are always go to your corners. I'm just really proud of the ways in which, again, we don't agree on everything, but it's never been disagreeable. And whenever we can find partnership and progress, we always do that. So, but tonight's about you all. So what I want to do is set the stage a little bit. Actually, I'm going to thank Councilman Crandell. He probably will save me a few slides tonight. So we can speed this along and get to the, no, it's good. It's good. I want to just thank all of the department heads. As the councilman said, we have all of the agencies of county government are represented tonight. And so if you haven't had a chance to connect with them at the cabinet and the community beforehand, they will be available as you ask questions and throughout the night. Please find time to connect with them and sync up with them. Or Mandy Remmel and Erica from OCE are also happy to help facilitate that. I also just want to thank our leadership team for being here. We've done a lot these past 4 years, and I'm going to just zip through these because you probably have heard this before. When we came into office, we worked with the council to pass ethics reform. We created public financing of elections. We created the county's office of the Inspector General and have grown that every year since being in office. We stood up a 311 service. We created the Office of Community Engagement, which we mentioned. We created BC Stat so we can track and use data to help drive our decision making. We built the first ever open budget platform, which is active right now. If you want to go on, you can see down to the check how Baltimore County is spending its money. We created a town hall series where we've engaged thousands of residents, and thank you again for your presence and your participation. I hope as we talk tonight, you'll see that your feedback really has been incorporated in the work that we've done. Working together, we've closed an inherited $81 million deficit. We delivered one of the best responses to the worst public health crisis of our lives. We've made record investments in education, public safety, and infrastructure. And this is probably familiar for those of you who are frequent flyers of the Town Hall series, but just a quick reminder of where the money's coming from and where it's going. Baltimore County's current operating budget is $4.4 billion. Yes, that's with a B. This is a large county. We're larger than 4 states. We have over 860,000 residents. Which is why it's great that we went from having 2 people testify in the 2 years prior to seeing the kind of engagement here and across all 7 council districts. The bulk of our operating support comes from both income and real property sources. There are some other federal and state aid that helps fund our budget. Almost half of all that we spend goes to education. 55% if you account not just BCPS, but also our library and community colleges. The other largest investments are public works and transportation and public safety, which we'll talk about later. Those investments have increased every year. But it makes sense that that's where it's going, as it's the largest buckets. The other thing I'll say is the vast majority, over 50% of all of our spending goes into our people. So the salaries, the health care, the retirement, a lot of it is really invested in our people. So that's the operating budget. That's the year over year, how we actually deliver services, clean up streets, pick up trash, et cetera. We also have a capital budget, which over from fiscal year 23 to 28 is over $3 billion of capital or infrastructure investment. About half of all of the funding for that comes from our Metro water fees. That funds all of the infrastructure for water and sewer that we're responsible for. As Todd said, and we'll talk about this later tonight too, Baltimore County funds 50% of all operating and capital infrastructure needs. A lot of that comes out of this Metro fund. That's almost entirely what funds our portion of the water system currently. In addition, the rest of the bulk comes from general obligation bonds. When you voted in November, you probably saw a whole host of borrowing questions. That largely drives that. In addition to those borrowing issues, we Oftentimes, if we're good stewards with our dollars, we're able to put additional capital funding into the budget as what's called pay-as-you-go or pay-go funding for additional capital items. Almost half of it is Metro District, almost half goes directly to sewer and water, as you see. Other major capital investments go to our schools and our public works. Again, key services, critical infrastructure. Councilman Crandell and the County Council have created what's called the Spending Affordability Committee. So every year, that committee meets and they basically look on the operating budget, so the day-to-day costs of staff and programs, and they set a rate that limits the amount of growth that we should responsibly take on in the operating budget to be sustainable in the years ahead. This year's SAC committee met. We take that information, we give all of our departments a target, and then we try to leave a little bit of cushion so that we can be fiscally responsible, but also be responsive to the residents. We want to make sure that we are maintaining things like our retiree health care, which had been completely eliminated in terms of year-over-year commitments, but we're fixing that. We are maintaining a robust fund balance in the case of a downturn in the economy, and we're making sure that we're managing our growth and being responsible about what's going into the budget. So just for context, current year fiscal budget has a 4.7% growth factor, which based on the prior year's budget said that if you want to stay under that spending affordability limit, you can't grow the operating budget more than $107 million. That sounds like a lot of money. When you start peeling it away, what that $107 million represents is a lot of money that goes into our people. And so when you peel the onion back another layer, and Sean, I think we can go to the next slide. Almost all of it goes into things like salaries, built-in costs, increased gas, electricity, et cetera. We have about 13% that's left of that spending affordability. Now you might think that's a lot too, but really what that has funded, those are the extra ESOL teachers in our school system. Those are the extra teachers and counselors in this year's budget. It's the tree equity program where we have our forestry division was expanded in the Department of Economic and Workforce Development. It's the green infrastructure bureau that we created in the Department of Public Works and Transportation to do things like work with the Turner Station community to address what we heard last year about the flooding challenges right here and across eastern Baltimore County. Education, you may have heard me say a time or two that I'm really passionate about education. Came up, proud to have been a BCPS product, to have taught in the school system, to now have a student in the school system. It's why every year we make sure that we are prioritizing, putting as much funding towards supporting our schools as we possibly can. This current year budget is $2.3 billion operating funds. That represents, based on enrollment, and so we are required by law to do a certain level of maintaining our support for the school system through what's called maintenance of effort. If you account for our maintenance of effort based on the 4,000 students we've lost since the pandemic and hold account for that, we've increased our funding $70 million above what the state mandates us to do based on our enrollment numbers. That represents a $91 million year-over-year increase locally for BCPS. What has that allowed us to do? It's allowed us to make much needed progress on things like teacher salaries. We know that we have far too many vacancies, not just in BCPS, but across our county government and across agencies. But we're very proud of the ways in which we've gone from being closer to middle of the pack to among the higher paid districts in the state. We were thrilled that we were able to agree to an additional step in the middle of last year, in addition to some one-time bonuses and other supports for our hardworking educators. Since taking office, we've put over 300 additional positions in the teachers, counselors, psychologists, school social workers, et cetera. Again, even as we've seen a reduction, we've continued these investments in our schools. In addition to the operating, we believe the buildings matter too, and that having high quality, modern, safe school learning environments matter a great deal. We've committed over $3 billion over the next 14 years to make sure that every school across Baltimore County gets investment that's worthy of the communities. What does that mean for District 7? It means that we're going to find and fund a solution to Sparrows Point Middle School and High School. It means that we're going to be able to take care of capacity challenges at Dundalk and Pawtucket. It means that we're going to be making significant maintenance investments in Logan, Chesapeake Terrace, Sandy Plains Elementary, Middlesex Elementary, and Dundalk Middle School. Don't forget you got a meeting, Mandy. The nice thing about our plan over the next 14 years is that the plan eliminates the need for trailers, not just in Sparrows Point, not just in Dundalk, not just in Essex. The plan will eliminate the need for having our teachers and students learning in trailers anywhere. We're also investing in the future. We're investing in science, technology, engineering, art, and math education. We're expanding pre-K to almost 8,000 young learners in Baltimore County in the years ahead. And we're investing in CTE. In this year's budget, we put forward $16 million in the capital fund to do things like security cameras and intercom upgrades, replacing doors, and installing security vestibules so that we have a safe way for our students and parents and staff to come and go. I mentioned the enrollment, and while we're looking ahead to the future, as a baseline for BCPS, we have uncertain economic forecasts. We don't know what the future years are going to bring, but what I wanted to do is try to give BCPS some commitment of the county's continued support for the operation. So what I've said to the school board and the school superintendent is that for the next 4 years, as a baseline, Baltimore County will commit at least $10 million more above maintenance of effort for the next 4 years, which is all I really have any control over. We know that education doesn't stop at pre-K or K-12, so we're also proud of our partnership with CCBC, that we have frozen college tuition for all 4 years since we've been in office, keeping it more cost-effective for county residents. We've also significantly expanded the opportunity for young scholars by increasing the investments in the College Promise Scholarship. We've grown by over 800 students in that program since starting 4 years ago. We haven't forgotten about the basics throughout all this. I think one of the best things that Todd and I heard in these town halls was the calls for bulk trash pickup to come back. We're very proud to have brought that service back. Year one of bulk trash pickup, we've seen 1,900 plus tons of trash collected from almost 70,000 homes across Baltimore County. We're trying to do more. We heard you about code enforcement. We've hired additional code enforcement inspectors. We have a code enforcement dashboard through our BC Stat team where you can actually see where the complaints are coming and where the code violations are being resolved. We're moving finally towards more proactive sweeps, was something else we heard in these communities, and we've enacted escalating penalties for repeat offenders. Again, the bread and butter, the basics, things like road repaving and traffic calming, over $81 million over the past 4 years. We haven't forgotten our seniors, doing things like age-friendly Baltimore County, No Senior Eats Alone. We have a great partnership with the Weinberg Foundation where we have this housing initiative to help our seniors age in place. And we've also committed millions of dollars in our capital budget to support our senior centers across District 7 and all of Baltimore County. Talked about water. We've put tens of millions of dollars into investments directly into infrastructure projects here in Southeast Baltimore County. Millions more for our sidewalks. We are focusing in and trying a place-based initiative in Essex, which was actually one of our hardest hit communities in terms of COVID numbers, social vulnerability indexes, and other metrics. So we have put forward working with our state legislators, and I know I saw Delegate Long here. I don't know if there are other legislators. I want to make sure I recognize you guys as well. But working with Delegate Metzger, he helped secure a lot of money from the state to do Essex streetscaping, which is underway. We're going to match that and support that work. We have a trash cart pilot program to over 4,000 homes, and we're going to track with data if that helps drive down things like code enforcement complaints and number of rat calls, et cetera. And we partnered with state funding with ROCA to do positive, proactive engagement with our young people to help interrupt cycles of violence in the Essex communities. Councilman also mentioned midge spraying. After many years of back and forth and disagreements between the state and county government, we cut through it with Secretary Bartenfelder, Councilman Crandell, and myself, some great advocates on the Back River. And what we have seen is this program is working. We've seen a significant reduction in midges through the aerial spraying that's being conducted. As we're going to continue that program, we're also actively looking at getting into the Back River wastewater treatment plant to actually do midge treatment in the plant. We think that will actually be a more cost-effective and effective method of doing that. Speaking of, I think this is speaking of Back River. Oh, no, that would have been a good slide to have there. We also believe in public safety here in Baltimore County. We have consistently increased our funding for public safety in our police department and other first responders, over $28 million just the last 2 years. Very proud of the work that the men and women of our department have done. Last year in Baltimore County, while there have been spikes all over the state and country, we saw a 36% decline in homicides. The men and women of the department continue to do exceptional work. We have a higher than national average of closing cases. You will hear me say often, if you commit a crime, particularly a violent crime in Baltimore County, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will hold you accountable. Everyone's welcome here, but we expect folks to behave appropriately. You can track data on our data and crime dashboard, also created by BC Stat. And I'll just say, in addition to supporting the men and women of the police department and the fire department, corrections 911, we also believe that upstream investments matter too. So we haven't forgot about spending on things like recreation parks and workforce and economic development. We are using data because we know that the vast majority of our incidents were either domestic violence or mental health related. So we're using that to also support public safety. We put a mental health clinician in our 911 call center. So if someone's experiencing mental crisis when they call, we have an expert embedded in our call center. We expanded our award-winning behavioral health crisis team to be able to respond to more calls. And we want to keep looking at other ways to support, like adding additional domestic violence counselors in the years ahead. When we started this term, we reinstituted recycling, which was discontinued, I believe, back in 2013. We worked at our landfill to start capturing all of the methane that was being released in the atmosphere to make sure that we're actually generating that energy, other than putting a terrible gas into the atmosphere. We were very proud to have created and established Operation Retree, where we are going into older, established, under-treed communities to make sure that we are putting trees all over the place. Just recently, we were in Turner Station spending over $250,000 for tree reforestation in Lyon Homes. We're also very proud on the green infrastructure front to have received over $2 million for green infrastructure to address the flooding concerns here in Turner Station. I mentioned parks and open space. This year's capital budget alone, over $45 million. That means waterway access improvements at Merritt Point Park. Rocky Point Park is going to see trails and other improvements. Solars Point here is going to have a new turf field and a track. We're going to have Sparrows Point Park. We are underway in terms of bidding and finalizing that process and looking forward to breaking ground soon. I believe that represents over a $20 million investment in that community, and it will be, I think, a real gem for all of Baltimore County. That's where we've been. Just a quick sense of where we're going. Just recently, we announced our legislation to support our communities. And really, for me, that means three things. We're focusing on workforce, we're focusing on capital, and we're focusing on housing. So we're very proud that during the pandemic, we now have Director Terry Hickey of the Department of Housing and Community Development. We stood that up. It didn't exist during the pandemic, and that's really critical work. I just recently introduced to the council a package of foundational housing changes. One would establish a housing opportunities fund. We're prepared to commit $16 million of our ARPA federal recovery dollars towards the housing initiative, and we're hoping that this fund will house that support. We're working, hopefully, with the council to create a definition of a vacant structure. Hard to believe, but we actually don't have that in code. And so having that done will allow us to go in and proactively do more enforcement actions It will allow us to be more intentional about boarding up for health and safety reasons more efficiently. And it will help us actually create an ecosystem where we can promote policies and programs where we are promoting home ownership, bringing in the marketplace to help go into vacant and dilapidated homes and bring them back up to speed. In addition, we're trying to update townhome construction policies to allow for a size change so that housing can be of different sizes and shapes and more flexible. We're also proposing to allow family members of any family to be able to live together in age and place in communities across Baltimore County. I know the councilman is reviewing that. I appreciate his consideration of the package, but that's where we're moving forward on the housing front. On the workforce front, we know that we need more workers across the board. We were very proud to announce a partnership with University of Maryland Medical System, St. Joe and Towson, where we put forward some recovery dollars that were matched by private dollars to launch a public health pathways program. What this program does, and it actually has only been announced, and we're just about to launch the application soon. We've already had more people reach out with interest than there are positions in the program. But it takes some of our most socially vulnerable residents, and it creates an opportunity for them. So we're going to take residents and we're going to put them through this program in partnership with CCBC. They're going to first get their CNA in 4 months. They're going to then have a guaranteed job at the hospital. They're going to be, while they're working, they're going to have wraparound supports and supports for things like transportation and childcare and housing, so they can go on and get their full nursing credentials in about 2 years, making family-sustaining wages. And if we can do that, we're taking families and making them self-sustainable while also meeting a key and critical shortage in our workplace. Looking to replicate those kinds of things. And again, investing in our infrastructure, our water and sewer and wastewater, investing in our firehouses and police stations, creating the community centers, the turf fields, the sidewalks, the roads, and the schools. And again, as the councilman said, we were very proud that we were able to work with the city and to also have the state come together and announce the formation of a work group, a task force on regional water and wastewater. This is a pretty sweeping bill, and so we look forward to working with your local legislators here and all of Baltimore County legislators and frankly all the members of the General Assembly to get this passed. This will take a deep dive into not just the governance structure, but all the other issues, the billing, the infrastructure needs of the system to really recommend the best path forward. We are currently operating under an agreement that is older than me. I believe it's older than you, Councilman. Close? Okay. 3 years. 1970. I don't. Now I feel like I'm outing you, but 1972. We haven't looked at this agreement since 1972. So it's long past time. There have been significant changes in populations. It was built for a time that was very different. So I do appreciate the state and the city recognizing this need and being part of this review. I think Todd did a great job of outlining how the budget works and the timeline. So I will just leave that. What I am introducing that's new this year, though, is I actually have, we ready? So I want to engage everyone, have a little bit of fun, because if you're not going to testify, why not tell me something tonight before you leave? So our team is going to be handing out pieces of paper that have the QR code. If you can't take a picture of it on the big screen, you can use the paper that's going to be passed down your aisle. And as you're doing that, if you just take a picture of it and click the link, we're gonna do a little live poll, and we'll see collectively on a couple of issues what people think. So it'll still be there. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's okay. We're gonna still pass around the papers. But the first question tonight is, how many town halls have you attended since 2019? So, as Todd said, this is the fifth year of the series. How many town halls have you attended? And we're going to just count like a series as a town hall. If you did all 5 last year, we'll count that as one. I love that there are a lot of first-timers. Yeah, it's not a one-stop shop. So once you're on, if you want to share your paper with a neighbor, you can just pass it down and get logged on. I'm going to give it just a little more time because I know there are more than 28 people who are in attendance tonight. All right, we've got 40 responses. We'll just give it like one more minute so we can get on to the rest of the poll and turn the floor over to you all. I just want to applaud the at least 20 or so of you who are here for your first time. Thank you so much for joining us. For those who are returning, especially for those fifth year returners, I hope that you are getting a lot of productive use of these meetings. All right. So, next question. It is a budget town hall. When it comes to the core needs of the county, I would say Baltimore County is investing too little, just about the right amount, or too much. Yeah, we can do a double jeopardy. Okay, looks like just about the right amount has a small lead over too little out of the 53 of you who have registered your opinion here. Let's just give it like 30 seconds, Mandy, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay. The next question, my top 3 budget priorities are, and the choices are school capital, school operating, rec facilities, green space and ag preservation, road resurfacing, pedestrian safety, public safety, housing and community development, workforce development. You can vote for 3 on this one. Pretty good mix with schools in the lead and then public safety not far behind. Do we have 1 or 2 more? Have you, so I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we have a 311 service. I'm just curious if you've actually used 311. If you haven't, next time you have a need in the community, maybe you will answer differently next time. Looks like about 35% of you have. Is that it, Mandy? We have 1 more. Okay. I'm going to turn the microphone back over to the Office of Community Engagement, and the Councilman and I are prepared to take your feedback.
Thank you, Johnny. I just wanted to say that Delegate Long, I think, was here earlier, but I think that he had to leave. And of course, our state senator and delegates are in session, so they're very busy right now. But I did want to recognize Mr. Rod McMillian. Rod, if you want to stand up and say hi. He is the 7th District elected representative to the school board. I wanted to make sure everybody knew that you were here, Rod, so welcome.
Okay. All right. Before everyone gets moving to the mic, we just want to, thank you all for signing up tonight in advance to testify, and those that have checked in and signed up here tonight. We just want to take a minute to announce that when we have you line up at these designated microphones, you will have 2 minutes to state your budget-related priority. We will ask that you adhere to the 2-minute time clock here. We will provide a gentle reminder of 30 seconds left, and then when the time clock buzzes, as you'll see Verinda there with the 30-second time card, when the time clock buzzes, we do ask that you please conclude your budget priorities so that way we can get to all of the residents tonight and ensure that we hear the priorities that you're sharing to the county executive and to the councilman. Lastly, I just wanted to say that if you are here with a group tonight, and there is a whole group of you that are supporting some sort of budget priority, we ask that you have one representative speak on that budget-related priority to the county executive and to the councilman. And if you've heard your budget priority shared, such as funding or public safety, and you've already heard it shared this evening, we just ask that you state "me too" or that you approve or support that priority. And if you have anything else new to add to it, you can feel free to add that as well. But we just want to be mindful, and we will adhere to the time clock here this evening. So we'll get started. And as Patrick reminded me, if time does run out and you have not finished, we will connect with you from the Office of Community Engagement to make sure that we hear your full budget priority, and we will get it to the county executive and to the councilman as well. Thank you. Mics are very sensitive. So
My name is Ann George, and I'm not actually a resident in this area, but I did have business in this area for 15 years. I'm a dog behavioral therapist, and I've served many people in this area. I have been an animal advocate for about almost 10 years now, and you're very fortunate. You have some facilities down here that we don't have in other parts of the county. You have a spay-neuter center in Dundalk, as well as a PetSmart that takes, how many people have gotten a pet from Baltimore County Animal Services? Either adopted one? No? Great. Have you seen the pets in PetSmart? Anyway, the problem is this. Animal Services is a part of the Health Department, or Health and Human Resources. And there's a trend now to take these services out of the Health Department and put them in a separate agency. I'm not concerned as much as more money, although it's not enough. And but what's happening nationally is to get nonprofits to partner and even have like a pet support network, which, how many people know about the student support network? Right. Well, lots of people, we've actually, this year, the live release rate has gone from 91% to 81%. They've had to euthanize 813 dogs this year just because there were no adoptive homes. And communication is a big problem. Last week, I was in Pikesville, and because the agency, the Animal Services, is a part of the Health Department, there was one table and one person standing there. Thank you. We need to look at alternatives, and I hope we can do that soon.
Yeah, and thank you. And fortunately, you floated the alternative at the last town hall, so I have that in the testimony.
There are others.
Okay.
Okay. You know, it's been taken out of and be given a separate agency in Montgomery County, and they're also proposing it in Anne Arundel.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es Susana Barrios, estoy aquí para pedir que pongan como prioridad las escuelas.
Good evening, my name is Susana Barrios. I'm here to ask that you make a priority.
No solo en la estructura, en el mantenimiento, pero también en los maestros y que consigan más maestros bilingües.
Not only in infrastructure in our buildings, but in our teachers, that you bring in additional bilingual teachers.
y que también creen un programa, así como el que acaba de hablar de las enfermeras, un programa para que estudiantes los puedan entrenar para que puedan trabajar en las escuelas, en las oficinas y en las oficinas del condado también.
I would also ask that you investigate starting a program similar to the one with medical services for young people to work in the schools, not only in our schools, but also in county offices.
Gracias.
Yeah, we were very proud to have added the additional English as a second language teachers in last year's budget, and we know that the need continues to have additional supports in our schools. We'll be looking at that as part of the submission this year. I also want to recognize, I think she was actually the last town hall, I think Dr. Mary McComb is Boswell is here. If there's any sort of school-specific issues that in the classroom, please make sure that you, but thank you, Dr. Boswell, for your presence here tonight.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Kanamui. I live in Essex, and I am an appointee of Todd Crandell to the Baltimore County Commission for Women, and I hope he doesn't regret that after what I'm about to say. In 2022, Baltimore County had more than 3,000 domestic violence calls for help and issued 4,000 protective orders. In 2021, 10 of the state's 58 domestic violence-related homicides occurred in Baltimore County. That's 1 in 6 in the state occurring here. Typically, a Baltimore County resident experiencing domestic violence and sexual assault has to go from the hospital to the police station to the advocacy group for safety planning, shelter placement, case management, counseling, and trips to the state's attorneys and the courthouse, and often they have no transportation. We have some ideas on how we can fix this in helping the women in a more efficient and better way through a central location with an eye toward empowerment and safety by developing a family safety center. Such centers exist across the country, and 2 are located in other counties in Maryland. Now, since we're talking about money, everyone wants to know, how do we pay for that? So there are federal grants and funding options. There are state grants available to get this facility up and running. With our vision, we see supplemental income coming from rental opportunities to the people who are current service providers who would move into this facility. That includes Dove, Turnaround, the Family Crisis Center, Hana. I hope that none of you are familiar with these places. The center, and an added bonus, can also serve as a base for economic development and empowerment by offering first floor space for retail goods and services by women-owned businesses and powered by women able to make a living wage. A Baltimore County Family Service and Safety Center is an idea that we would love to discuss with you more. Thank you.
Sharon, I'm not sure why you think that I would regret appointing you. I'm very proud to have appointed you, and I thank you for your service to Baltimore County.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Elmer Galeas, soy residente de este distrito y
Good evening. My name is Elmer Galeas. I'm a resident.
me gustaría pues abogar por lo que es, bueno, pertenezco a una liga de fútbol
I belong to a soccer league.
y me gustaría pues abogar a ver si hubieran más presupuestos para nosotros poder tener una cancha de fútbol en lo que es el área de Dundal para adultos.
I would like to advocate that the budget consider adding an additional soccer field in the area of Dundalk for adults.
La siguiente pregunta es sobre las escuelas. Tengo mi hijo de 13 años en la Dundal Middle School, en la cual se están presentando muchos problemas, los niños están peleando.
My second question is about school safety. I have a 13-year-old at Dundalk Middle School, and there are a lot of fights at the school.
Me gustaría saber pues si hubiera más presupuestos también para poner más seguridad en las escuelas.
I would like to advocate for additional funding so that there's more security in our schools.
Sabemos que todavía el distrito de Dundalk se permanece un poco seguro y no quisiéramos que dentro de 5 a 10 años esta ciudad vaya a ser un desastre.
We know that Dundalk is a relatively safe safe school, but we would hate to see in the next 5 years for that to change and for it to become a disaster.
Y también en lo que es lo que es las carreteras, si hubieran implementarse más policías, hay personas que están viniendo de otras áreas y no sabemos con qué intenciones están viniendo. Puede ser que también perjudiquen a los vecinos. Ojalá y pudiéramos tener una respuesta de ustedes, señores.
I would also like to advocate for additional police funding for our streets. There are many folks coming into our district with questionable reasons. We would like to see more police presence. I would like to hear from both of you, sirs.
Eso es todo. Muchas gracias. Éxitos.
Thank you so much.
So, I don't know, you all heard from Director Smith on the rec. We will connect you with Director Smith. One of the things that I'm really excited about is that I believe we're going to have 2 additional fields at the Sparrows Point Park. 1, but it's going to be turf, so it's going to be very usable. And then additionally, we are working with Recreation and Parks to open up sort of drop-in opportunities for the community so that in addition to our rec councils, which are great partners, we also want to make sure that this is a community amenity that folks have access to our fields. As it relates to school safety, we have not only continued to fund, but actually expand our school resource officer program, which is a nationally recognized program. The school system has added school safety assistance to the schools this year. And the last thing I would say is I just really encourage parents to be involved, and we'll keep working with the school system to be open. I think the best indicator of a child's success is active and engaged parents. So the more parents we have in the schools, the better we are too.
I am Sarah Curry, a senior in the Law and Public Policy program at Eastern Technical High School and the intern for the Baltimore County Commission for Women. As a young woman entering college, I have a first-hand perspective into just how vulnerable women can be within this world. That is a world that views us as simply as an easy target. Seeing as I will be on my own within the next few months, I recently began looking into issues that could impact me. Now, it was of no surprise to me that power violence has proven to disproportionately affect women. However, I was surprised to find that Baltimore County has some of the highest reported cases relating to this type of violence within Maryland. It was this discovery that led the Commission and I to take action. Just this afternoon, I traveled to Annapolis to testify on a bill Commissioner Amy and I drafted which relates to this very issue. This legislative initiative is titled See Someone, Save One, Save Someone, and will work to combat human trafficking at its root, transportation. However, human trafficking is just one of the many forms of power-driven violence that women must face every day. Domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, vulnerable adult abuse, these are all types of power-driven violence that are prevalent within our society. The truth of the matter is that we are in a dire need of a place that can not only assist with all of these issues, but solve them as well. This is where the Family Safety Center would come into play. By establishing a Family Safety Center, we would be able to provide a safe space to victims of all types of violence. At this singular location, they would be able to receive any type of aid, such as legal assistance, counseling, case managers, and so much more. These resources would be provided through satellite offices in the center holding representatives of already existing service providers. Not only would this eliminate any hassle that victims may otherwise experience from having to travel to multiple places for help, but it would also help to ensure their safety throughout the process. So it is essential that a center such as this be put into place in order to provide victims of power violence with the means necessary to escape their situations and ultimately save lives. Thank you.
Thank you for one of my favorite things at the town halls is when we have our young people show up and testify. So thank you for your powerful testimony. Thank you for making us proud. I'm very excited for what the future holds for you, and we look forward to working with you.
I'm sorry, but I missed your first name. Sarah. Sarah, thank you for coming forward this evening. It's not easy to speak in public, and it seems like you have no problem doing so, and you don't need someone like me to tell you need the courage to speak publicly about something. So I do appreciate your advocacy, and I do want to let you know that I just had the opportunity to speak to a 9th grade AP government class at Eastern Tech, And you are part of a school of very engaged young people in a lot of different areas. So you should be proud of your school. So go Mavericks.
Mi nombre es Lucía Islas y yo represento al Comité Latino de Baltimore.
Good evening, my name is Lucia Islas. I'm representing Comité Latino of Baltimore.
Primero que nada, les quiero dar las gracias por permitirme estar el día de hoy aquí.
First of all, I would like to thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight.
Y comentando lo que dijo el concejal, nosotros sabemos que ustedes ya tienen una lista de prioridades, pero nosotros como comunidad latina tenemos la nuestra.
As the councilman mentioned, we understand that you have your list of priorities, but we as the Latino community also have our priorities.
Y con todo respeto, nosotros pagamos taxes y una de nuestras prioridades es que nos gustaría tener un diferente estilo de vida.
And with all due respect, we also pay taxes, and we would like to advocate for a different style of life.
¿A qué me refiero con eso? Nosotros tenemos 4,000 miembros en nuestro comité y de esos 4,000, 1,000 son jóvenes y ellos están teniendo, no están teniendo oportunidades de progresar.
Comité Latino is 4,000 strong. 1,000 of them are young people, and these young people are not having the same opportunities that others are.
Me gustaría preguntarles a ustedes, porque mencionaron que si alguien hace algo malo, ustedes van a actuar. Obviamente estamos hablando de que si hacen algo malo van a ir a la cárcel. El señor concejal me podría decir qué está planeando para aquellos jóvenes latinos que no lleguen a hacer algo malo, qué programas hay para ellos.
You mentioned that when somebody acts incorrectly or does something wrong, that there are consequences for that. Councilman, what do you suggest to keep Latino children from doing and engaging in bad behavior?
¿Algún programa para ellos? Gracias.
Are there programs for young people? Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Seems like your questions were directed to me specifically. So I just want to be clear that you said that you don't like taxes. Is that correct?
We pay taxes.
You pay taxes. So you don't like taxes.
No, we do like our taxes. We
Okay.
pay our taxes, and we want to make sure that you know that we pay our taxes.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's in question. But let's focus on young people. And you know, I don't want to make a differentiation between Hispanic young people and people of different colors and young people that are white, brown, black, whatever. Because what I've seen in our schools, and we just had an incident recently that involved some young people that was potentially very tragic, and thankfully it wasn't. And in talking with the school system, there are numerous programs within the school system and numerous programs that the police department, through our school resource officers, participate in to try to hone in on youth that are at risk and are at risk of either committing crimes or just disrupting their school, which makes a very difficult learning environment for everyone else. So I think the programs are in place, but I will echo what the county executive said a few minutes ago, and it's something that I've believed since I started really thinking about this a decade ago, is that our schools and our children are only as successful as the interaction that our parents have with their kids and the schools. So I think a lot of the opportunities to keep kids out of trouble really starts at home. And we have community schools that are designated community schools in our district. And these schools have social workers. They have the ability to reach out to families and bring families in to discuss issues that might be going on at home and to, try to keep kids from getting in trouble in the first place. And I will agree with you that we're in a climate where there is a lack of consequences for a young person's actions. And I grew up in an era where if you got in trouble, there was somebody to answer to. And I think that we've sort of lost that as a society in general. And if a young person can learn at a very early age that if they do something bad, they're going to have to pay a price, whatever that price is. So I thank you for coming before us this evening. Thank you for your questions.
And I'll just add, if there are gaps, that's why we have these conversations, to connect you with Director Smith. If there are more rec programs that we should be looking at, Director Leonard Howie is here from Workforce Development. He leads an effort around summer youth and employment. So if there are needs there, Leonard, could you stand up and sort of just wave to everyone? And then I mentioned, encourage you to let us know how else we can partner.
Sí, gracias. Esos son lo que necesitamos, programas padre e hijo para tener un mejor futuro para el condado de Baltimore.
Thank you. That's what we need. We need parent-children programs so that we can make Baltimore County better.
Laura Norman. I'm an ESOL teacher, English as a second language teacher at Dundalk Elementary School. This is my 6th year teaching and my 4th year with BCPS. Today at work, I talked to a first-year teacher. She told me how she was exhausted and overwhelmed, that there were not enough hours in the day, not the work day, the whole day, to get done what she needed to do. If you average out elementary planning time, it averages out to 7 minutes a subject. Today, I also talked to a 5th-year teacher. And she told me about how she was exhausted and overwhelmed and that there were not enough hours in the day to get done what she needed to do, not for fun, but for her job. Workload and hours off the clock might not be addressable at this moment in this room, but the budget is. I would want to be able to tell my coworkers and my friends that their hard work is being matched with a salary that's respectable and keeps up with inflation, which is currently over 6%. Even with record funding, the current proposal offers a $0 raise to keep up with inflation specifically, and that was something that we had gained last year, so it's something that we essentially lost. I want to tell them that BCPS is doing everything they can to retain great teachers. I can't make that true just by hoping. We need your help to make that expectation a reality. Yes, teachers are overworked. Yes, there's a teacher shortage. Yes, there's a sub shortage. So I believe that the people we should be focusing on are the ones that we do have, the ones that are in the building working as hard as they can every day.
Totally agree, and thank you for all that you do.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Carlos.
Good evening, my name is Carlos.
Estoy aquí en esta noche hoy porque quiero que sepa lo que está pasando con mi comunidad.
I'm here tonight because I want you to know what is going on in my community.
No vengo a pedirle que nos den, simplemente que hagan algo, porque ustedes saben que mi comunidad ha sufrido mucho por la pandemia.
I'm not here to ask you to give me anything. I'm here to ask you to do something because you know that our community suffered a lot during the pandemic.
Y usted sabe que en esta área vive mucho de nuestra comunidad hispana y simplemente ellos no tienen un seguro médico.
As you know, there are many Hispanics that live in this area, and many of them simply do not have health insurance.
Yo vengo a pedirle que usted haga algo por nosotros. No queremos un seguro médico, queremos clínicas que sea un costo accesible, que podamos pagar.
We're not asking for health insurance. We're asking for community health clinics that are accessible and affordable that we can pay.
Porque nosotros no tenemos darnos el lujo de perder un día de trabajo, porque no podemos faltar a nuestro trabajo y mucha de nuestra gente, aún con la pandemia, trabajó duro.
Many of us do not have the luxury of taking a day off because we cannot afford to get sick. And many of people in my community worked during the pandemic.
Y como dijo la señora Lucía, pagamos impuestos y nosotros no estamos exigiendo, pedimos de favor que hagan conciencia por mi comunidad, porque estamos olvidados. Ustedes tienen en mente que nada más el hispano viene a trabajar, pero sin ningún beneficio y pagamos impuestos.
As my friend Lucia said, we are here and we pay taxes. We are not asking you or demanding, we are asking you to take into consideration our community, because many people think that Latinos just come here to work. We do. We come to work and we contribute, but we also want and need support.
Gracias y espero realmente hagan algo por mi comunidad.
Thank you, and I hope that you are able to do something for my community.
Good evening, Cindy Sexton, TABCO President, and my mission, as it has been since day one, is recruiting and retaining educators for our schools. In the interest of time, I'm going to make 5 points. A properly staffed school will help improve learning outcomes and help address discipline concerns. We need the educators. While BCPS has made strides in increasing salaries, we still rank 9th in the state in career earnings for our educators. Our budget priority is an historic restructuring of our salary scale so Baltimore County can compete with other school systems in Maryland. A healthy school system means a healthy county. So our students must be the priority. We must take care of them and do all we can to prepare them for whatever future they choose. And that starts by making sure they have the educators they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for being a consistent and persistent voice for your members. And our students and our families.
Good evening, my name is Claudia Ruiz. I am a small business owner.
Mi esposo he tratado de ser que me quiten el estereotipo de carga pública. Por lo consiguiente, siempre he tratado de tener negocios.
Always fought to be a stereotype of a public charge. We have always had small businesses and worked to contribute.
Para nosotros los hispanos en el área he visto cómo poco a poco ha ido creciendo, pero pienso que todavía falta más en el sentido de que he visto algunos buildings desocupados.
The Hispanic community in this area is growing and continues to grow. I have seen that there are areas for improvement. I have seen many vacant properties.
No solo soy yo, son muchas personas emprendedoras que somos empezando y queremos pequeños buildings o estos buildings pueden ser designados para los pequeños emprendedores para poder entablar pequeños negocios no como un mercado.
I would like to ask and see if it's possible to turn some of these small vacant buildings into housing for small businesses to have a type of market.
Sé que la renta es bastante elevada, pero y las registraciones de ciertos negocios también se hace bastante difícil porque no hay personal hispano que pueda ayudar a traducir o a registrar estas compañías.
Owning a business can be very difficult and challenging. Oftentimes, it's difficult to find the paperwork translated or available in other languages. Renting properties can be very difficult, but if there's a community marketplace or a property or a building that can be used by small business, minority-owned businesses, this would be very helpful.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Hickey, are you here tonight? All right, why don't, Terry, you want to just talk about sort of the housing work generally that we're trying to do with some of the vacants? I think there's probably general interest in that, and then we can also connect to talk about some of these other ideas about other opportunities with some of our vacants.
Good enough?
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Hickey. I run the Department of Housing and Community Development. And real quick, the idea is very simple. We have communities that have vacant and blighted properties. We have sort of a historic looming need for additional housing for everybody. Our seniors, our working families, folks just coming out of college, families with children. So the idea is with this new legislation is to create a definition of a vacant structure allow us to then as a county advertise publicly what properties have been abandoned and vacant, and then work with both developers and the property owners to allow those properties to be upcycled into important roles for family housing, first-time home ownership. But think about this, the county executive's vision is to combine public amenities, things that we need and want, with housing. So start to think beyond just vacant individual houses, think about vacant commercial, vacant retail that's sitting there causing a health problem in communities. What if we could find a path to turning those into mixed income, mixed use, vibrant community centers with workforce programs, small business space, and places for families and individuals to live? That's the plan, and we think we've got a real path there and funding to help get it off the ground. So, love to talk more.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. County Executive Olszewski, Council Member Crandell, thank you for your time. I'm Lloyd Allen, a special educator in mathematics, speaking as an individual. In 1999, I remember John Kreiner of BCPS coming to Ohio State, go Bucks, to recruit me at the time. At the time, Ohio was a net exporter of teachers. Then, as now, Maryland needed to import teachers. Maryland imports over 2/3 of its educators. Salary was not my only consideration, but it was certainly a factor. Before looking at the salary scales, I knew that I would return to my birthplace of Arizona to teach. Then I looked at their compensation and crossed them off my list. Now there's a national teacher shortage, and my friends keep leaving the profession. In 2026, all Maryland jurisdictions will need to meet $60,000 a year as the minimum salary for starting teachers. To recruit, we will need to beat that. To retain, we will need the salary compression that was agreed to last year. Please fund a scale that attracts and retains the talent that our children, our future, require and deserve. Thank you.
Good night. My name is Isabel Aguilar. I'm ambassador of Latino Education Advance Fund. We have more than 80 families in the county, a Latino family, of course. One of the biggest challenge for our parents is the language. The parents and parents with children with special needs, those kids, they are American city. And I'm sorry for repeat this, but we pay taxes. Why we repeat all the time this? Because that some people thinking because we are Latinos, we don't pay taxes, or every Latino is undocumented. We are American citizen and pay taxes. And inclusive, undocumented people pay taxes. And the only thing they ask is for the best education for the children. This is why they are in this country, contributing with the city. We need each county school have an interpreter all day, and not just a person in the telephone. When those parents have a situation, the children suffer bullying, they need wait a week to have appointment with a teacher or come to the school to the interpreter for the cell phone help. We need somebody in person in the school to help with that language. This is we asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, Mary, if you're comfortable, as I know that part of the proposal this year is also to move back to sort of a community-based model, so that we actually have some of those resources generally in addition to the community school work, et cetera. So.
Your thunder. So good evening. So one, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to share with everyone. We do recognize in the school system that our students that are multilingual learners, our students are about 11,000 strong across our school system. And we currently have the model at the elementary level where students are served in their home elementary school. And our model for grades 6 to 12 is one that is many decades old, where students go to a center. What we now know is that it's much better for our students to be in their home schools because they have access to resources, they have access to participate in athletics, and many of the community schools resources that are available in their neighborhood. And so we as a school system are working to respond to that. We continue to partner, of course, with our county funding source to request resources for our English learners, regardless of whatever language is their home language. And so I know Javine, I see, is here this evening, and we work together. And so we do understand that there is a great need, and we are striving to build out those resources for you in each and every school, because again, our multilingual learners are fully embedded across our school system in our neighborhoods and communities, as you can see this evening. So I hope I helped, and I want to turn it back over.
My name is Renwick Glenn. I'm from the Turner Station. Residents kept saying St. Helena community infrastructure is getting proposal to us. They call us an underserved community. Allocated to us, and we're still in the consulting stage. We haven't got one road. Instead of being considered an underserved community, when will we get something? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think this was sort of a conversation we had last year at this town hall. I can't speak to what happened 14 years ago or why things didn't move along, but I think Director D'Andrea Walker is here with her team, Jen Aosa on our sustainability teams. If you want to just weigh in a little bit about sort of where we are and our intentionality about making sure that this isn't going to just be a consulting thing, that we're going to make sure that we're in the queue and moving forward to actually deliver.
Well, we get some construction started. I mean, we just in consulting stages. This is get.
Evening, sir. I think we've met before when I've come out to this location and walked the neighborhood with you for some of the challenges. We are super excited to have gotten these 2 grants. Over $2 million for Turner Station, which is fabulous to be able to do some green infrastructure work and address the infrastructure challenges in this area. So we were just notified in November and December that we received the federal grants. We're going to start moving forward. So I don't want to say we're in the consultant stage, but we've got the money. So that's what we needed all the time. Now we've got the money. Now we can move forward and do some really great things here. So I can connect with you, and we can make sure we stay in the loop together on what happens next.
I'm president of the Millers Island Residents Association. I'm here to consideration not only for our community but our neighboring communities. Millers Island Road currently has 1 lane in each direction, and many people who walk, run, and bike use that road, sharing it with traffic. It's a very windy road. Someone could very easily come around a corner and hit people on the road, and the sides of the road are not conducive to people easily stepping. To ask for funding for a feasibility study to determine if a walking, running, and biking path could be placed along the north side of the road, along the 1.5-mile path that's currently Black Marsh, that would join it with our Millers Island Park, so people could park there and use the path. It would not only be usable for us, but also Edgemere, Fort Howard residents who would find it useful. The current biking and pedestrian plan only calls for striping within. Encourage more people to use it, but unfortunately it also increases the risk that someone will be injured or killed. Numbered streets in Millers Island, at the ends of those are county parks and recreation property designed for residents to use for access to Back River. I'd like to ask for consideration of funding to put in a canoe and kayak launch, preferably 11th or 12th Street, close to Millers Island Park, so that people could drop them off and then park at Millers Island Park.
Dr. Frank, thank you for being my community president currently and for advocating for our community. Director Smith, I think we actually do have some funding county-wide for kayak launches, if I'm not mistaken, Drew. And if you, is that a yes? Okay, thumbs up, so we can connect you on that particular opportunity, and we'll add to the list of things to look at for the other requests regarding the feasibility. Thanks, Dr. Frank.
Good evening. My name is Kevin McDonough. I serve as the president of the Rockaway Beach Improvement Association, representing the Turkey Point and Cape May Peninsulas in Essex. I'm here this evening to articulate on behalf of our community several areas of interest with regard to the upcoming county budget as it's being formulated. We would like to see the following included in the upcoming county budget: funding for a new Essex Police Precinct, additional monies allocated for Project Open Space and for the Coastal Rural Legacy Area, continued investment in the Essex Commercial Revitalization District, funding for upgrades to an existing horse trail system that links Pottery Farm Park, Sioux Creek Park, Barron Schmidt Park, and Turkey Point Park to convert that into a safe and accessible path for hiking, biking, and walking. Allocation of funds for the expansion of the Medic substation on Back River Neck Road to add fire apparatus. Reinstituting the small grant program for the Department of Planning that was popular for the community improvement projects under the Jim Smith administration. Additional funding allocated for hiring of code enforcement officers, training and continued education for existing inspectors. Dredging of local waterways, which have not been dredged in many years and are beginning to fill in with sediment, which is impacting the accessibility to our area's crown jewel. And the establishment of an Eastside Animal Shelter / BCAS facility. We appreciate your consideration of our comments and suggestions and look forward to reviewing the upcoming budget proposal.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. And I also, I'm in receipt of your list. So when I have my sit down with the county executive, we'll
We're going to make sure the councilman is strategic about which ones he puts on.
We'll go through it. We'll go through it. But I also want to let you know that I appreciate your ideas over the years that you've expressed to me about land preservation in the Back River Neck. And I don't want to give too much away, but you're going to hear some really good news very soon.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you,
Bill, my name is Bill Walton. I live over on Liberty Parkway in Old Dundalk. First thing, thanks very much for making sure that our garbage guy is under contract. And I've just been notified on that. Thanks very much for that. One thing that's very important at Dundalk Avenue, we have a very bad situation with street racing. Street racing is starting to become a fad throughout the country, but Dundalk Avenue seems to be one of those hot tamales. And I do believe that our police department can't babysit that road, especially when they're coming from the city and coming from Sparrows Point as well. We have new workforce out there now, and they're all coming back and forth on Dundalk Avenue. And it's only 35 miles an hour on that road. Well, they don't do that. And they were actually running the lights too. Now, we have a school in the area as well. We have people that walk to school. We have Mickey D's is right there. We have the park, you know, I call downtown Dundalk. There's a lot of people. They're walking in the street. But we have cars doing 80, 100 miles an hour. Now, what's going to take? A rollover? Going to roll over into a townhouse, or roll over into an apartment, or roll over into a store and kill everybody? Well, you know, it doesn't take that much money to have a speed camera. And from what I understand, they're free. But all you got to do is prosecute the ticket. So if you can do that, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. I do want to just give if someone from the police department want to just give a general response, and then I also will say just generally, the councilman has reached out to me, and our Office of Government Affairs is actually working to coordinate, because once there is an enforcement issue once folks are outside of Baltimore County, so we are trying to coordinate meetings for that intersection more generally to talk to our city counterparts. But if PD wants to talk into that, and then as for the speed cameras, state legislation dictates where they are. I believe it's a half-mile radius within a school. We're happy to take a look at it. I think what we've done historically in Baltimore County. They've been at school sites, but we can certainly have a conversation. So I don't know if PD wants to.
As far as the speeding on Dundalk Avenue, the majority of what we found is in the city. We normally meet with the city captain, Brian Hopkins, and he's been very helpful with us in talking with that. What we're basically trying to do is when these street breakers come up, the Baltimore County line is at the Railroad Bridge and basically at Squires on Halliburton Avenue. We try to, as soon as the groups come up and they start in the city, we kind of take that corridor over to keep them out of the county. A lot of the noise that the residents are hearing and that they're complaining about is coming from all the way up into the city. So we'll be meeting with them in the future. We've written quite a few tickets, and we've actually got one of the groups that kind of went down in Edgemere and got locked into like a fenced-in lot. And we were able to charge every one of them with street racing. We've towed a lot of the cars, and we've recovered a lot of handguns from that. So I'm kind of hoping that keeps them out of the county side of it, but we will continue to work with the city on that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is going to require cooperation, but CAP and the precinct, when illegal activities are happening in Baltimore County, our guys and gals are pretty good about doing their job and holding folks accountable.
I'll just add that I am hopeful for greater cooperation between Baltimore City and Baltimore County, because that intersection there is a complete circus. We all know how bad it is. We've passed it. We've seen the homeless camp be built on the city side of Dundalk Avenue. We've seen other problems with prostitution, drug dealing, and Baltimore County police will do everything they can to protect the Baltimore County side, but they simply cannot go over into the city and do anything because they would be out of jurisdiction. So we need the cooperation of Baltimore City, the Baltimore City Councilman, the mayor, and the Baltimore City Police Department. So I'm hopeful that those relationships can continue to be built, because I think they're essential to that area. And by the way, that was Captain Glenn Wiedeck, by the way, the precinct commander for the Dundalk precinct, North Point precinct. Great cop, not so good at microphone.
Good evening. For Leah Bittinger, Sussex Community Association President. First, I want to thank you for funding the feasibility study for our new Essex precinct in last year's budget. I would like to make the ask that we continue that momentum and allocate the funds for a new police precinct once the feasibility study is complete. Additionally, we are thankful for the improvements that are happening in Cox's Point Park. I feel that it's important to let you know that we see you and appreciate what we are seeing. Now, for this year's ask, expand, improve the BCS, Baltimore County Animal Services facility at Dudman Way, or use the old police station government center on Merritt Boulevard at Wise to provide a stray hold facility on the east side. This will provide fair and equitable access to county services for this area, which is underserved. Many of our residents lack transportation or share a vehicle. Making the trek to Baldwin creates a hardship because of its remote location, distance from the east side, and hours of operation, which coincide with most constituents' work schedules. 25% of the entire county, 25% of the live impoundment stray pickups were from the Essex, Dundalk, and Middle River area. I can assure you that number would likely be much higher if it were not for the countless hours I spend scanning animals at large for microchips and getting them back to their owners. I stopped counting at 250 for last year. On the east side, so they don't have to trek across the county to the shelter. I want to touch real quickly on one thing. There were 797 redemptions last year in Essex, Middle River, and Dundalk. So doing this could also provide a space to hold adoption events and other services for this area. I'd also like to add our community's full support to a new Essex library. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. It's good.
Good evening. My name is Sean Downey. I'm athletic director at Chesapeake High School. I'm here with support from my principal, Ms. Amy Tyler, football coach Chris Acab, and members of the Sports Boosters, as well as Mr. McMillian. I'm here to present and ask for the help with Chesapeake High School stadium improvements and a turf project. There's more than 900 students at Chesapeake High School playing football, boys soccer, girls soccer, lacrosse, and our allied sports. Presently, in the geographic distribution of turf fields in Baltimore County, there's 4 in the north, southeast, 4 in the northeast, 5 in the central, 4 in the northwest, and 5 in the southwest. Schools in total have 19, there's 19 schools with turfs, and there are absolutely 0 in the Essex area. Eastern Tech has the rights to CCBC Essex and CCBC Dundalk for their sporting events. We're asking for assistance and need with Mr. Smith and trying to get together and come up with a initiative for Chesapeake High School to get funding for a turf field.
I'm sure Board Member McMillian will say me too on that one. There's a little bit of history there, right? And I'm sure Captain Latshaw will also say me as well on the Essex precinct. So, but did you have something?
I've been in discussions with the county executive and Delegate Metzger.
Metzger is also on board for.
Correct, and we all are. And I'm happy to report that he is, if you're not aware, and if you are, maybe members of the audience are not aware, but we are seeking, and Delegate Metzger is leading the way on this in Annapolis, seeking state funding to supplement Baltimore County funding to put turf at Chesapeake and Patapsco High School, and then maybe eventually Eastern as well.
Thank you.
So we're listening.
Point. Raise your hand if you're from 19 or 52. Raise your hand. 21219 or 21052. Raise it high. Come on, Johnny. All right. Yeah, we got it here. We got it here. Listen, before this starts, I want to thank Johnny, and I want to thank Todd, and the people behind, all the Baltimore County people that are behind this town hall. This is beautiful. And I want to thank the teachers, the police, the fire department. Those guys, you know, they don't get enough recognition. So I want to extend that to them. And thank you for taking care of the elderly and the students of Baltimore County. So I'll get right to the point. My name is Keith Taylor, and I'm president of the Sparrows Point North Point Historical Society, and I'm testifying on behalf of the thousands of members of the society for the Beacon of Hope project behind Sparrows Point High School. The organization was established in March of 2018 as a 501c3 nonprofit. I'm going to do a Ron McMillan here. And nonprofit in good standing with the state of Maryland, part of the Maryland Charity Campaign. We have embarked on many projects within the community. The first is the Beacon of Hope project on Sparrows Point High School grounds. The community, through fundraising efforts and community involvement, the lampposts, we acquired these lampposts from the former Bethlehem Steel property at Trade Point Atlantic. The Historical Society, we preserved part of these lampposts, and the lamps will be lined the sidewalk in back of Sparrows Point High School, and they will be solar powered. So when we're not using the lights and we're not using the power from the remote solar package, we're tied to the grid. So that 6,000 watts per hour goes back to the school and to help Baltimore County and the public school system to with energy. So as we acquired that, the project vision expands to include phase 1 of the project, a 4,000 square foot pollinator garden that was installed on November 26th, 2022 with the help of the students that are part of the Sparrows Point Education Center of Environmental Studies. We finished, so the Beacon of Hope project, will offer this group of students, and this is the AutoCAD students from Sparrows Point High School, an opportunity for hands-on learning through the design and construction process. Our brainchild is already reaping rewards. This is from Mr. Mazer, instructor of the CAD class at Sparrows Point High School. We finished framing the multi-purpose shed using the construction plans you guys sent over to the school, building a 3/4 size model of the Beacon of Hope project. The Historical Society's educational motto is hands-on, minds on. Building crucial connections can help students fall in love with their school. By nurturing students' sense of school pride and feeling that they are part of the community they want to belong to. We have partnered with Baltimore County Public Schools to ensure completion. We are days away from a building and grading permit. The problem is that inflation and what's going over, this project's been going on for 5 years.
So Keith, what's the delta?
I'll get right to it. So we have a $75,000 grant from the state of Maryland. The Historical Society, my Historical Society, has donated $150,000. And we're asking Baltimore County, since the inflation and everything, for $75,000 to complete the project.
Good evening. My name is Corey Edwards, president of the Dundalk Renaissance. I'm proud to represent the organization that also has staff, current and former board members in the audience, alongside the many residents who benefit from the good work that our organization does. I would like to thank you, Mr. County Executive, and you, Mr. Councilman, for your dedicated support to the Dundalk community. And at this time, I'm going to hand it over to our Executive Director, Tasha Gresham-James.
Thank you. And just to be quick, of course, we support a lot of the initiatives that you have in the budget. I hope that helps, Councilman, that we do need, of course, more housing initiatives and, of course, workforce development. But I also want to urge you to continue to fight for more regional partnership. I'm also having a conversation with Mayor Scott and Councilman Cohen about this very thing. Of course, you heard in the audience some of the mentioning of a lot of our issues that transcend not just our jurisdiction, but in our area. So we want to keep thinking regionally, and I hope that we can continue to be great partners in the future. Thank you.
Tasha, thank you. And I just want to tell you how much I enjoyed being on that panel discussion with you a few months ago. It was very enjoyable. Thank you.
County Executive, I know you wanted to respond to Keith's point.
I was just going to say, proud alumna, love all my communities. We try to make sure we meet all, we make sure we tackle all of the needs of all of our communities. So, but duly noted. I got it.
Thank you, sir.
Evening, County Executive Olszewski and District Council Member Crandell. My name is Donald Jones, and I'm here this evening representing the Fleming Senior Center and serve as its president in order to request a budget line for the center. The building that currently houses both the Fleming Senior Center and the Head Start program was originally designed as a recreation and parks facility and fails to meet the needs of seniors. The primary need for the Fleming Senior Center is the construction of a new building designed specifically for senior services. Short of a total replacement of the site, there are specific opportunities to modernize, upgrade, or repurpose assets. These opportunities include: 1, increase the county's plan for an additional 17 parking places by converting one of the underused basketball courts to additional parking with more handicap accessible parking spaces to accommodate the center's 450 members. 2, installation of a second handicap accessible entrance. 3, increased internet capacity to service the needs of the building. This is critical. 4, installation of a fully functional kitchen. Currently, the kitchen area is shared with the Head Start program. 5, increase in the number and modernization of restrooms to include the installation of exhaust fans in all restrooms, including the Head Start program restrooms, more female restroom stalls and vanities, and a changing station for visitors with babies attending the center events. 6, replacement of light bulbs with daylight fluorescent bulbs, which are much brighter with comparable costs and better for the eyesight of seniors. 7, purchase of new ergonomically designed chairs and tables for the multi-purpose room. 8, modernization of the lobby area to include replacing outdated equipment at the front desk and the addition of sofas and softback chairs to create a lounge effect. 9, installation of a digital LED marquee on the exterior of the building to keep the public informed about the center's events and programs. 10, painting of the interior of the building. 11, acquisition of several secure storage units. 12, installation of partitioning to add flexibility to the usage of the rooms and spaces. And lastly, purchase of at least 3 Promethean presentation systems, 1 each for the gym, multipurpose room, and executive boardroom. It is our desire to maintain a suitably functional facility for our seniors. Thank you for the opportunity to address this body. And I would like the Fleming senior members to please stand.
So if you want to stay, if you can stay standing for 1 second, so we're going to say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just counting. I'm counting. If you're going to say so at the mic, I want to just make sure we're capturing the 14 or so.
Believe that we have in that group the 2022 Humanitarian of the Year. Is that correct? Is she here? There she is.
Director Riley, are you here? Do you want to just pressure, Laura? You want to just say a few words about the work we've done and Mr. Jones, can we get a copy of that list too at some point? So, oh, I do. Okay, perfect. Erica's got it.
One, two, there we go. The parking lot expansion is actually scheduled to start in the spring. We've already bid the contract on that. And Donald and I had a conversation earlier tonight. I have his list as well, and we cleared up a few things, and we'll continue to look at how we can expand the center. We've given them a fitness center, which has been a wonderful thing. Thank you for that. And we're trying to make sure we provide equitable services across the county.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. County Executive and Councilman, and all of your executive secretaries. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thanks to everybody that shows how strong our community is by showing up here tonight to represent so many different groups. So I appreciate that. I don't like taxes. I'd like my taxes lowered. I just want to have somebody on record saying that. That said, my name's Greg Missoni. I represent several homeowners on Dunglow Road. Last year, we fought a family crisis center moving in to the old buildings at St. Rita's. This year, it appears there's a drug rehab group. At least that's the rumor. We'd like for that not to happen. This is a residential street. Families care about their homes. They take care of them. And I don't understand why we need to put services, not that they're not needed, but not needed on a residential street. So I would ask for your assistance to make sure that we not have to have this annual battle of having to fight and the security of our road and our property values. I also ask that St. Rita's is in financial trouble. They've had the school closed for many years, the gym, the old convent. Building that I'm talking about is the annex building where there's talking about a rehab center. There is a way that the county could create an open space by eliminating these buildings and eliminating the possibility for social services to move on a residential street.
Yeah, I don't want to commit to it, but if there is recreation space, I actually believe it might be eligible for a program open space acquisition for community use generally. So we're happy to work with Department of Recreation and Parks. If you've got a contact, Greg, would love to sort of. You also have another famous. I know you're one of the famous residents. You have a new famous resident on the administrative team on Dunglow. So I won't out you. But maybe you can connect with Mr. Missoni before he leaves.
Thank you, and I hope all of you come visit Missoni's restaurant in Perry Hall.
Can confirm it's pretty good. So,
and just to clarify, we've researched this new rumor, Greg, as I think you know. The zoning simply doesn't exist for what is being rumored to happen there at the St. Rita's facility. facilities like that are not allowed in a residential zone, and the zoning needs to hold up, and I'm not of mind to change the zoning to allow something like that to happen at that location. And while we're at it, before Ms. Brooks starts, I mentioned that we have the Humanitarian of the Year, but she's not speaking this evening. I'm not sure why, because she has a lot to say and she's involved in so many things. But we also have the Dundalk Optimist Citizen of the Year, Jessica Lilly, here this evening. So thank you, Jessica, for coming. Sorry, Edie. Go ahead.
Flooding and infrastructure problems. We greatly appreciate your staff's substantial investment in this project, and we look forward to continuing to work with them and our partners to plan and implement climate resilient strategies and solutions. On behalf of the Turner Station Conservation Teams, I'm presenting 3 of our needs this evening. Number 1, Gersbeck Food Market closed its doors on June 17th, 2018. We've been living in a food desert for over 4.5 years. Someone said access to food is a basic human right, vital for good health and ultimately for life itself. We desperately need a grocery store and a full-service shopping center at Logan Village. Number 2, the roundabout for traffic calming on Dundalk Avenue and Silas Point Road is the main entrance to the Turner Station and Water's Edge communities. It's an awful eyesore, and it poses safety issues. Large trucks and buses are constantly damaging the roundabout. It really needs to be re-engineered and reconstructed with the addition of beautiful landscaping to create a safe and welcoming entrance to our communities. Number 3, a sidewalk is needed on Main Street for better safety and walkability. It should extend from Ash Avenue to New Pittsburgh Avenue across from the Browning Highway wall. We've requested this sidewalk for several years. I also have another request. St. Matthew Food Pantry is doing a wonderful job, and they'd like to know if the county could find some surplus funds, and could they restore Baltimore County COVID-19 emergency food operation of Turner Station.
Thank you, Edie. I did want to touch on the food market in particular for this crowd. So recognizing that there is a real gap, we were proud to partner with you and others to stand up a food shuttle as an interim measure. We announced recently that we were lucky enough to be able to partner and land a grocer over in the west side of Baltimore County. What I will tell you is that that deal required the developer, the county, and respective grocers to come together. We are actively working with the grocery sort of ecosystem to try to fill the void that exists here in Dundalk Turner Station. To the extent we have additional support and partnership from the owners of both either Dundalk Village Shopping Center and or the two centers, that obviously will help facilitate. But we are actively working on that. If you want to connect with Director Howie, he and his deputy Todd Dolbin are actively working on those efforts. And so I just want folks to know we are actively working in addition to the food shuttle to try to actually land a grocer, and that's a focus of ours. Lauren Buckler, who is the deputy director, I don't know if DeAndrea's here, but that was Lauren earlier. That's DeAndrea Walker. We have a new community connectivity program, so that if we haven't already, we should make sure that we are connecting the two of you to go through and talk about our analysis in our sidewalk programs that we have or if anybody's interested in sidewalk stuff, you should see Director Walker tonight.
So, very happy to hear somebody talk about the North Point Government Center tonight. The Government Center is a very important property that we have in the area, and the citizens of the community who live in that area are very concerned about what's going to happen. Checking out the school prices, if a school would happen to go there. School prices are $150 million. If a new school, what you're saying, needs one for Sparrows Point, if need to find a place to do that, put in the land, you're talking possibly, especially with the $20.25 million that was already guaranteed to the developer, could be $200 million or more. We don't want to lose $200 million. We want to keep the North Point Government Center where it's at. So I'd like to see some figures on the maintenance that's been going on there. I heard that flooring was going on there. We were unable to gain access to the building, and it was going to be the winter time. I would like to gain access to the building with the community residents that want to know what's going on in the building. So can we have that? Is it ready? Been waiting for months now.
I'll have to, Bob, I don't know if you've been working on that or you want to speak to it.
Okay, and on top of that, with Dundalk Avenue at Main Street, I've seen so many accidents there. I've actually documented people that are being killed, not on Hollibird, not on Dundalk Avenue, but further down where like the Royal Farms store is at. I was right down the street when someone was killed right there. Somebody speeding down the road, took out a couple cars. Somebody pulled a kid out of the back of their car. I was so glad that kid was okay. But someone died there that day. That was awful. Right near Main Street about 2 months ago, someone was killed there too. So the problem is not only up further, it is down, they actually going towards Water's Edge, turning past Main Street, they consider that stretch a race area, and they come up there probably about 60 miles an hour, and then they blast down towards Water's Edge. So we have a real problem there. Please, I thank the police that are out there doing their work all the time. Whenever they're doing, I thank them for being in the neighborhood. Please put some radar right there at the Dollar Tree. You will generate a lot of money for the county, and also you will protect the kids and everyone else from being injured or killed.
Sure, the flooring will go in the beginning of April, so they'll be working on the floor then. We redid the boards, repainted all the boards, put in new boards, crasher boards, plexi, on the floor starting April 3rd.
So, Scott, thank you. As you're well aware, I mean, this is currently still before the Board of Public Works. What I will tell you is, and I think the councilman and I agree on this, is that what was originally proposed is insufficient for the community. It doesn't meet the needs. So we are open to continued dialogue around the issue to see if there is a path forward at the site that is amenable to hopefully everyone, but certainly more people. Well, as we've talked about in prior meetings, there is an agreement that's in place that we have to wait to see the disposition of that process to then be able to determine the next steps. But I think the councilman and I agree that what was initially proposed is insufficient and doesn't meet the community's needs. Yeah. We'll talk more offline. I'll make sure we get through everybody else tonight too. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Juanita Barnett, and I am a resident of Turner Station, and I am on the board of the Turner Station Conservation Team. Hello to Donnie O and to our councilman. I wish to submit to Baltimore County Parks and Recs to provide funding so that we can update our existing community with power for LED illumination. Our community board is currently located on Main Street at Ballnew Avenue. It's two-sided, and it informs the community of upcoming events and activities. Providing power so the LED lighting can be installed would provide more visibility and would bring the board up to date. Thank you for the opportunity to share my request, and I look forward to future communication about this project.
Thank you so much.
My name's Peggy Sierakowski, and I'm representing Colgate Recreation Council. Our Recreation Council is in dire need of a new recreation facility. no lights. Our foundation in our little center is cracked. There's no parking. The walls are chipping. The stairs going down to it, the fields and the rec center are in bad shape, and the retaining wall needs to be replaced. Our rec council has grown, multiplied multitudes. At this time, we have about 22 indoor soccer teams, 7 basketball teams. We're expecting 7 baseball teams, 18 outdoor soccer teams, and 1 softball team, and we have a dance center. We need a new facility. It's dangerous. It's not been updated since it's been put up. It's been infested, and we've taken care of that and tried to paint to keep it clean, but it's just disgusting. And it's nice that all the other area recreation counselors are getting all these little things, but we've been on a list trying to get help with this issue. And I'd like to know what we're going to do about it.
Thank you. So, Director Smith, you're the man of the night. If you want to see Bobby back there with his recreation team, we'll make sure that we have not just rec and parks, but I'll make sure someone from my office. I don't know if I know our administrative officer Stacy Rogers is here. Elizabeth Sachs is our deputy for health and community services. So maybe Elizabeth, we can make sure that our office is represented, like a site visit to sort of check out the conditions and have a conversation. So thank you.
Oh. Hi, I'm Nehemiah, and this is my friend Isaac, and we go to Sandalwood Elementary, and we are here to do the idea of putting a park, a community center, or someplace we can go to have fun and stay safe in our community, or just somewhere that we know that we won't get in trouble, or not just sitting on the street and getting in trouble, because in the community there's a lot of people that, like kids, that are just walking the streets and getting in trouble from just doing things what they want to have fun with. So I want a community center or a park or just someplace we can go to make sure we have a place to have fun and stay safe.
As I was said before, my name is Isaac Noakes. I go to Sandalwood Elementary, and just as Nehemiah said, we would like a place for us to be able to have fun, whether it's a park, a playground, or a community center, and because we need a place where we can have fun, especially people my age and older, sometimes younger, and we actually just need something like a basketball court or a soccer field, volleyball place. Either one of them will work, but we just need any place that we could have fun.
Good job, man.
I'm Nehemiah's mom, and I lived in Essex my whole life. I grew up there. In the side of town we live on, there's no access for anything for kids to get school, which has after-school programs, but it's only limited. So you see a lot of kids walking around. There's no access to parks or community centers, so we'd really...
Guys, really, really great job. Thank you for making us proud, and we'll have to see what we can get done this budget cycle. So make sure we get your information.
Johnny, can you see those 2 young men in these 2 seats at some point?
I like that idea.
Buenas noches. Yo necesito que... Yo vivo aquí justo en la Solers Point Road. Soy inmigrante. Vivo frente al campo justamente y yo soy ama de casa. Yo he venido a pedirles a ustedes que por favor ayuden con la basura. Yo personalmente voy con mi carro recogiendo basura.
Good evening. My name is Ana Valle. I am a resident of this district. I live just up the street on Solars Point Road. I am a housewife. I am an immigrant, and I want to speak about trash. I go in my car and pick up litter in my neighborhood.
Yo misma he hecho una publicidad que voy dejando en los locales, voy dejando en diferentes lugares, casas, para que apoyen y ayuden uno a uno, mano a mano, que recojamos la basura, no solo de nuestra área, no solo de nuestra casa, sino por donde vamos. A mí me ha tocado ir por el freeway.
I go around sharing this flyer that I created myself and print myself, encouraging our neighbors to pick up trash, not just in their house, in their neighborhood, but everywhere, so that slowly we can start changing things. I've had to not only be in my neighborhood and do this, but I've also done this in the freeway.
Estoy cansada de que las personas que vienen a visitarme me digan que Baltimore es sucia, que por todo lado basura. Entonces yo pongo mi grano de arena, yo pongo mi persona, a mis vecinos, a todos los que me conocen, de ir recogiendo basura. No me importa de quién sea, me pongo guantes, agarro una bolsa, me he ido a los freeways a recoger la basura, pero necesito limpiar Baltimore.
I am tired of hearing that Baltimore County is dirty. I am tired of hearing people that come to visit me that say that Baltimore is gross. I put my grain of salt in helping clean up our community. My neighbors, friends, they all know that this is something that I'm passionate about, and I bring them with me.
Por favor, ayúdennos ustedes también, porque así como está Baltimore, donde comenzó, tenemos ratas, tenemos basura en la parte de atrás, necesitamos esas cajas, lo que más puedan ayudar para que la gente se concientice y pueda limpiar la ciudad.
The problems with rats that Baltimore has, Dundalk is going to have too. We need your help. We need trash bins so that we can educate and work with folks so that they know that trash needs to go in the trash bins.
Espero el apoyo de ustedes, por favor. Hagan mayor publicidad y manden más lo que es para limpieza, camiones. Porque ahora, por ejemplo, aquí en Baltimore, yo solamente un día estaba recogiéndome la basura. Antes eran 2, ahora es solo 1. Entonces, se están creando ratas. Y eso es lo que acá en Dundalk no nos conviene.
Please help us. Do what you can so that we can combat trash. Previously, I used to have my trash removed twice a week. Now it's only once a week, and this is going to increase the reproduction of trash.
Thank you.
And todos somos Baltimore County. I like this.
I just want to thank you for what you're doing in your community. And I think that everyone in this room is completely maddened by the disrespect that people show by just throwing their trash wherever they want, not taking care of their trash properly. You're absolutely right that if you don't handle your trash in the appropriate way, that you're basically putting a smorgasbord out for rats. And it's something that Baltimore County has tackled in the last 4 years or so with a rat eradication program. And as part of that program has been education on how to use a trash can properly. And it's surprising how many people that don't know how to use a trash can properly, and that you just can't put your trash out and in a plastic bag and expect a rodent not to get into it. The one thing that I would suggest, and we could make this happen, I think that Doug from my staff is still here, is that you connect with one of the environmental groups and cleanup groups that we have in the area. We have several. We have Clean Bread and Cheese Creek. We have, I'm going to miss the Edgemere name. Someone can, it escapes me right now, but we have Maryland Waterways Foundation. We have Back River Restoration that conducts cleanups, and they have grant funding from Baltimore County and other sources to provide tools, bags, pickers, buckets, all that stuff. And they're also doing public education on this issue. So I would encourage you, I don't know if Doug is still here or not, but if he's not, we can get your contact information, put you in touch with these environmental groups, and I think you'd be a great asset to those groups and to work with them.
Ms. Gail Woods, and thank you to the county executive and members of the cabinet for providing this opportunity for the public to give input on the budget. My request this evening is for money in the budget to allow for increased surveillance of Veterans Park on Shipping Place, between Shipping Place and Dundalk Avenue. The park has become an eyesore because of litter and mismatched furniture left by afternoon gatherers, which then becomes an open invitation for others to use during the night or early in the morning. The park has also become a home of drug trafficking and seemingly illicit activity. I don't know if this is a problem to be addressed by Rec and Parks or if it is a police issue. Repeated calls to both organizations have not given me any results, and it's probably a little bit of both, but there needs to be some kind of resolution. It has become unsafe for law-abiding citizens. This park is well lighted. It's in public view, unlike some other parks, so I'd hate to think what happens in those other parks. Perhaps more surveillance is needed in all parks. This small problem, left untreated, has grown to a larger one, and recently was the scene of a shooting. Please help control unlawful activity in our area.
Thank you, Gail. Cap, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing to increase surveillance currently, and then as that's happening, thank you for sharing. One of our other leaders in our administration, our deputy administrator for public safety, is your daughter Rebecca. So I want to acknowledge Rebecca and her work with Baltimore County as well.
The shooting we had there, just so you know, all that's been solved. Everyone's been arrested, and we made 2 search warrants with a large amount of weapons seized. As far as the park goes, we've been partnering with narcotics with both enforcement and then covert operations down there, and we have some good arrests. We've made some good headway with people down there, and we've charged several people with felony distribution. I can give you that. A lot of times when you call these complaints in, they go to our narcotics unit. It takes a little while to work on those cases. You don't always see the results, but we've had really good success down there. And we are also going to be increasing the patrol officers down there to follow up.
I'm going to mention the cameras.
Yes, and the Dundalk Renaissance is got a grant, and they're going to be putting cameras all through the shopping center and the surrounding neighborhood, which is going to help us also. And the police is going to have access to that.
I'll just throw one last comment. I've mentioned before the sit down that the county executive and I will have as far as what my budget requests are. And I think it may be time, Johnny, that we take a look at Veterans Park and perhaps reimagine what Veterans Park could be, and look at things like, is that pavilion really necessary anymore? You know, we've made numerous calls to law enforcement, to property management, and it's cleaned up for a while, and then it returns to the state that Ms. Woods just described, and then our resources go in, clean it up for a while, and then we have something like a shooting that the police have to have another case that they need to close. So maybe it's time that we look at not only the use of that park, but the architecture within it and how it's laid out. And if we're going to go to a camera system, how do we have as much visibility with those cameras within that park to enable the police to do their jobs and to be a disincentive for people to be doing the wrong things in the park?
Say yes to the conversation, Todd, 100%. And I think it's also a good segue into how do we make sure that we're driving as much positive commercial traffic up there through things like what I hope Ms. Gregory is going to mention.
Shirley Gregory, Santa the Community Association. Yes,
My former president.
yes, definitely.
One of, yeah.
I do want to bring up the Heritage Trail, AKA the Road to Nowhere, soon to be Gregory Way, because I've been working on this since 2000. Do want to know an update. I also wanted to bring up that we're having a lot of vehicles dumped on Willow Spring Road and throughout St. Helena. And we also have vehicles that are being worked on with tags that are being parked on Willow Spring. They're either temporary tags or out-of-state tags, and there are people selling those vehicles. So none of the tags match the vehicle. They're just for sale. Third thing I wanted to bring up was the corner of Willow Spring Road, Dundalk Avenue, Liberty Parkway, and Pine Avenue. We need those red lights changed, so when you're crossing Willow Spring, each has their own light, instead of trying to do this. People hit each other. It's just, and you don't have enough time. And then by the time the light changes, Pine Avenue and Liberty don't even have time to go across.
So thank you, Shirley. I'll work backwards on the lighting. We'll have Director Walker and team come out and take a look and see what's possible and have a conversation with you. If you haven't connected with her, I would think the cars are probably some combination of PD and maybe like PAI and code, right? So we'll have Director Gutwald. You have been quiet this season so far. So Pete Gutwald is the Director of Permits, Inspections, and Approvals, which includes code enforcement. So we'll connect you with Cap, Pete, DeAndrea. And then on the Heritage Trail, we are actively working with the comptroller, Bill Henry, to get agreements in place so that we can take our next step, which we hope will be in March. We'll have more information for the community as soon as that work is finalized.
I will testify if you want me to at the hearing, because I testified
Yes, ma'am.
at the last
We will be
four
reaching out to you, the DRC, other interested associations to show their support so that folks know that on both sides. And I'm being a little cryptic because I haven't had a chance to have my meeting with Councilman Crandell about this issue specifically. So it's about to percolate, but it's coming. So, yes, ma'am.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm sorry. My name is Ed Kreiser. I'm here with North Point Council. We represent Edgemere, Fort Howard, and Miller's Island. And our biggest issue, which has always been our issue, is sidewalks. And thank you for Erica. I mean, property management is going to suffer without Erica, but you picked up a really good one there. She's been great. Sidewalks that are our biggest problem is Lodge Farm, Lodge Forest, which, as you know, was Bethlehem Steel property that they ran on. And when they sold that property to the state of Maryland, we have these macadam sidewalks that are now owned by the state, and we just can't get any interest, I guess, from the state to be able to resurface these macadam sidewalks, which the roots have grown up. They're huge tripping hazards. And I don't know if it's agencies not being able to talk or, you know, what it is, but we need some light shed on that. We are an aging community. Any sidewalks in our community would be greatly appreciated because, you know, that community was built with no planning. So sidewalks are our big one. And I heard one of your directors with the housing and the mixed use. We have that white building on the corner of Ruth, and it's the hard turn there, which we went in. We had some, you know, interest in that. It's a blighted building. It's on a bad blind curve. If we could get some kind of interest from the county, whether to tear it down and start over and sell it or use it for mixed use, we would really appreciate any kind of interest on that building. That's it. I feel bad asking for anything after these two young men testified. I felt like giving them everything. Where do I start? I'll get my hammer and build them something.
Thank you, Ed. It's funny, Terry, I actually was going to mention that building to ask your team to take a look at it. So that's something that we don't have to wait for a budget to do. We have funding in place so we can, if I know where it is, so I'm happy to get that directly to Terry. On the sidewalks, Director Walker, I think we actually had some. I put some local. I think it was like $150,000. If I'm, I've got like a steel trap when it comes to the budget. But we put money locally to help support efforts there. So I don't know if you have any updates on those macadam sidewalks along Lodge Farm and Lodge Forest. We're going to make sure we get you with Mr. Kreiser, and you guys you can talk about.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed.
Ed, just to clarify, are you talking about sidewalks on Lodge Farm and Lodge Forest, or sidewalks on North Point Road in those areas where the right? Okay, I got you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Keene. I'm the president of the Chesapeake Gateway Chamber of Commerce in Eastern Baltimore County. As you all know, over the last 6 years, the Chamber's Eastern Baltimore County Task Force has been working on revitalizing the Essex Commercial District. I just wanted to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you, County Executive Olszewski, for your commitment to redeveloping this important area. And I also want to thank Councilman Crandell and the county staff and the leaders of various county departments and the community who work with us on a daily basis to bring these projects to fruition. Just for those who don't know, in addition to funding a farmer's market and streetscaping projects of various types, including new sculpture, trash can, benches, flowers, and whatnot, the county funded a technical assistance panel to bring in experts who made recommendations to take this effort to the next level. And the main recommendation that they had, and the Chamber agrees wholeheartedly, is that it's time to bring in a full-time champion to spearhead these efforts. So I just wanted to take a moment tonight to, with great pleasure, introduce the Chamber's new director of the Essex Development Initiative. Her name is Chrissy Erb, and she's here today because of the county's generous support. So thank you so much, and I'm going to give her a moment to say hello.
Just real quick here, it's my true pleasure to be working in this new role with the Essex community and business leaders, as well as the local government, to build on the groundwork laid by the Eastern Baltimore County Task Force. Upcoming projects include the Essex Facade Improvement Program and Security Camera Rebate Program for local businesses in Essex, and the installation of the turf field at Renaissance Park. In my few short weeks here, I have learned of many challenges the community faces, yet have been energized by the people's will to do good and their desire for a better quality of life. Thank you for providing the funding for this position. I'm truly excited to share the results of our efforts with you over the next 2 years. Thank you.
We're looking forward to all the good work y'all are going to do. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Francis M. Seaman Sr. I'm a concerned citizen for the Baltimore area. Things that are happening, like we can't have any fish netting in Back River due to the fact that the fish eat the larvae from the midgets. We must dredge Back River back to 1940. All the way back to 1940, from the head of the river to where it empties into the Chesapeake Bay. Wastewater plant, no pollution whatsoever. People didn't do their job there. If they needed equipment, people should have been liable for not purchasing equipment to keep the plant in operation to have the conditions that is taking place now. Bridge on North Point Road at the Bread and Cheese Creek must be put in. The engineers have the drawings and everything for it, as I tried a few years back whenever they had a cavitation in the road. We need to raise the bridge up so there's no more flooding and no delay in traffic. And have sidewalks on both sides of the bridge so that pedestrians can walk. Storm drain on Willow Road needs to be extended. It goes partway down in people's yard. The engineers already have the drawings and everything. All the county needs is approval. No spraying of Back River. It affects the eagles, the aqua life and the birds. My son retrieved an eagle last year when they were spraying. It was climbing up on the back of the boat at the lower end of Back River on the east side. No fishing when they come to spawn. Summer people can swim. Thing, sewer cost should not come from the water bill. The county should be able to have the cost for every individual home and business the same price to be in that matter. And we're discontinuing plastic bags. If you had somebody working at the place where they recycle the tree branches and stuff, if they cut the bags open and dumped it out, they could still be doing that. And your approach table at Timonian, have you ever replaced it so that it don't collect the bags that it does? You just need a conveyor there. I approached it before the epidemic came, and I tried to call your office and never got no results. Plastic bags are important to our society. We need to advertise and spend more time on people throwing trash out of their vehicle. If you want to make a law, have everybody to have a container in their vehicle so that they can put their trash in and take it home, not throw it out on the road and everything.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Seaman. And
Thank you for your
as I
time.
said, we will make sure that, as Mandy's already, I think, connected, we're going to make sure that we have a follow-up on some of the additional questions. So thank you.
Bet. And thank you for the extra time. I know I'm a rude guy when I do that, but I want to get things across because they are on my mind, and it's for the community.
That's right. No, we appreciate that you're here.
And I told them that 6 months I could repair the entire Back River if they would put me in there, and I would do it just like I did.
As soon as we look at it and change the governance structure, we'll make sure I have a chance to get you hired. So
thank you. God bless you all.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to Johnny O and Todd Crandell. Thanks again for hosting this. I've enjoyed them ever since, I believe 2019 is when they began. First of all, regarding the North Point Government Center property, I believe that contract with the developer was engaged fraudulently, so that could be overturned without much issue. I believe the Board of Public Works had to approve of that before that contract even went through, and for some reason the contract went through, so that needs to be investigated even more. But I'm actually here tonight to propose an idea for the Baltimore County Police Department called a course on the Constitution. Over the past 3 years, during the COVID-19 public health emergency, we had some of the most egregious civil rights violations since the 1940s and 1960s. So I would like to be the course instructor so that never happens again. The civil rights of Marylanders was violated by Governor Hogan, former Governor Hogan, thankfully, and their civil rights were also violated by different executives across Maryland. So that never happens again, I'd like to teach a course on the Constitution so that the police can enforce the law and we never have to experience that again as Marylanders or as county residents. And I would do that for the cost of gas and tolls.
Thanks, Adam.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. My name is Juan Carlos Nunez. I'm currently an entrepreneur here in the Dundalk area. I'm not new to business, but I'm new to Dundalk. Question is, I just recently purchased, and I had the opportunity to sit with Councilmember Todd Crandell at the restaurant. It was bought during an auction, inherited a lot of mechanical issues, and found out that there was a lot of mechanics and that needed to be replaced as a result of the building being a little bit of old infrastructure. Just this Sunday, I had a false alarm. I had the fire department storm in because they thought they had a fire as a result of black, thick smoke coming out of my chimney. It's a result of an old oil furnace that I have. So if I want to upgrade all these systems, it's going to cost some money. And what I'm asking is how accessible do we have, in order to purchase more upgraded systems as it relates to heating, cooling, because as you all know, the economy right after the pandemic, things have skyrocketed. So there is inflation, and as a result, our employees need more an hourly wage and all the rest. And as a restaurant owner, there's a lot of refrigeration that takes place to operate a restaurant. So, you know, how accessible it is, it's one thing for business improvement, but at the same time, there is a lot of operating expenses. And, you know, being that generational wealth was not an opportunity for me, you know, hard work, you know, all we're asking is if as a small business owner and being Latino, how accessible is it for funding in order to improve an established business that is giving back to the community, and how is the state and community working together in order to help small business owners?
Thank you for being such a valued. Yeah, I was going to say, Leonard Howie is still here, so we're happy to connect on any and all resources that are out there. In addition to anything we might have through economic and workforce development, or the state or others might have as well, we also have a property tax in Baltimore County that is for energy efficiency upgrades. And so properties are eligible, commercial and residential, if you upgrade your systems or build at a certain efficiency level. Jen, I don't know if you can speak to that, or Director Kevin Reed from Budget, if you want to just sort of talk on that briefly, very briefly, since we're... We'll make sure that, yeah, if you want to connect with Director Reed as well, we'll get you that information in addition to Director Howie.
Very nice to see you. If you don't know Juan's establishment, I'm not going to name it because he didn't name it. But if you have a hankering for an empanada and first-class sushi, that is the place to go. It's the only place in Baltimore County where I think you can get both.
Last but certainly not least.
My name is Rod McMillian. I was acknowledged earlier. I'm the Board of Education representative for the Councilmanic District 7 in this area. I want to follow Mr. Crandell's lead and thank the people that voted this past November. Whether you voted for me or didn't vote for me, I appreciate the fact that you went to the polls. The views that I'm expressing right now are my views. I'm not a spokesman for the Board of Education currently. I want to thank Dr. Olszewski and Mr. Crandell for their continued support of the school system and me in my position in the last 4 years and 3 months. Most specifically, I want to thank Mr. Olszewski and his leadership team for their efforts in looking for a suitable piece of property within the Spears Point Edgemere community for a new school. They're focusing on that. I met with Dr. Jennifer Lynch the other day, and I'm real pleased with their efforts. Secondly, I want to support Chesapeake High School wholeheartedly in their efforts to secure artificial turf. Dr. Olszewski looked at me and asked if I acknowledged if I was in support of that, and I gave him a thumbs up. I taught school for 35 years. I was at the athletic director at Chesapeake High School for 25 years. That school could really use turf. Thirdly, I want to urge Dr. Olszewski to allow the Baltimore County government to continue ownership of the North Point Government Center. For those of you that don't know, the Government Center at one time was at North Point Junior High School. And sometime in the 70s or early 80s, because of a declining enrollment, Baltimore County Public Schools closed North Point Junior High, and the property went back to the Baltimore County government. Please keep the property and do not sell it. School overcrowding in the southeast area is at a critical stage. It is my opinion that we need to keep this piece of property to help deal with the overcrowding. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Final thought, Councilman.
I just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and expressing your views. And, you know, we're not always going to agree on priorities. We're not always going to agree on exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. But the one thing that we agree upon is that we are one community all together. And I think that we've seen the diversity of our community tonight. And I think that we've seen a willingness in local government to engage with our community. Why all the department heads are here tonight. And I don't think that we've seen that in previous administrations where a citizen can get direct access to an agency head to solve problems and to discuss issues. So I just want to thank you for coming out tonight and everyone for speaking their minds, but speaking respectfully and having their facts in order and being part of this process. And I'll look forward to the county executive's budget, and hopefully I won't have to cut anything out of it.
Ditto. Thank you all so much for coming out. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.